There's a moment in almost every struggling marriage where you will feel it. The shift where things feel like they're slipping away. The conversations feel heavier. She's not as warm to you. And in that moment, most men make a decision and say to themselves, I am not going to let this fall apart. And ironically, it's often the moment that they start doing all the wrong things which cause her to pull away even further. So in today's video, I'm going to break down the things that most men do to try and save their marriage that make her check out faster, and give you the counterintuitive way that will get your wife to start reconnecting with you and on the right path to a happy reconciliation. When you notice that your wife starts to have less emotional output, so less enthusiasm, her responses get shorter, there's less initiation on her end, the most common way men respond is to actually increase their emotional output. Speaking from experience, whenever each of my failed relationships, including my ex-fiance, were at a point where she was starting to check out emotionally from me, they would all go down the exact same path where I would have this snap realization that I have to put in more effort because something, I didn't know what, but something I was doing or not doing was causing her to all of a sudden, the way I saw it, be very unsure about our relationship and where things were heading. I tried to talk more and tell my feelings about how much I loved her and how perfect we were for each other, trying to solve why she was feeling that way, and basically giving her reassurance of my love, my feelings, and my commitment for her. This made complete sense in my eyes because it felt like I was stabilizing the relationship by providing things emotionally that maybe I was slacking on once I got comfortable with the relationship and I was just kind of living through the daily motions and being complacent. I had no idea, and most likely you don't either, was that this actually causes a pacing mismatch. She slows down and you speed up. Well, now you're not moving together. You're actually moving against each other. Because of the panic and realization you have to do some sort of action to fix things, you start micromanaging the relationship. But what she starts managing is the distance between you emotionally. As soon as you begin compensating for her emotional reduction in the relationship, which obviously started taking place subconsciously long before she started showing you signs that you could actually notice, the energy actually becomes very uneven. So the more you try to correct that imbalance by leaning into her with your own emotions, the more unnatural the dynamic completely becomes. You're not wrong for trying this way, and I want to say I was not wrong for trying so many times this way as well, because this is all I ever knew and all I was exposed to. I thought, oh, I have to save this. I have to make up for all the slacking I have done at the tail end of these relationships. But what I didn't know is that when she is emotionally drained, taking these kinds of actions and increasing the intensity of them had no effect and actually hurt emotional safety. To me, I thought I was showing how much I was committed and how much I cared. But when it didn't work again with the relationship with my ex-fiance, when it was crumbling to a point where she finally called off the engagement and broke up with me, I had to finally realize there was something I was doing wrong, and I was not just a victim of another bad circumstance. What I realized after going through that experience again was that I truly had no clue how attraction worked and what being a leader in a relationship really was. I didn't know that attraction has gravity. I didn't know that stability has weight. And I didn't know that when you're actually grounded and steady, I don't want to say indifferent, but you're almost to a point where you're indifferent. It's probably better just to say unperturbed, but that makes you feel safe to her and it makes you feel strong as a masculine leader. But when you start orbiting her reactions, you kind of lose that weight as a leader, and along with it, there goes her attraction. When you over-monitor her moods, when you over-explain her intentions, when you overcorrect every piece of tension, you're communicating something underneath it all, which unfortunately is not love and care. It's actually instability. I remember when my ex-fiance called it off after we got back from her vacation and she was at her place. I was trying to get her on the phone so I could just pour my heart out and explain to her and convince her how good we are for each other. All I had been exposed to, and this was almost 10 years ago now, so when I was in my mid-30s, and at the time, I still had no idea what made women tick. All I was exposed to was movies and TV shows and romantic comedies where the man pours his heart out with such passion and then it makes her reconsider. So it's not like I went in doing that as my strategy per se, but it just started happening naturally based on what I was exposed to. And I got her on the phone and I'm telling her, like, I love you so much. We are made for each other. We are supposed to be together. And I was crying and I was getting louder. I'm just pouring my heart out, and thinking back is making me cringe a bit, but I'm never going to forget it. I expected something in return, like, well, what you see in the movies, this realization on her end that, yes, she loves me a lot and we can make everything work. I tell you, the other side of that phone call, it was frozen cold. She was just like so cold and monotone and said like, I'm sorry, but I can't anymore. And that was basically it. Obviously, it's so easy for me to pinpoint now how weak and beta that made me look. And it was like the cherry on top of the similar type of lack of leadership behavior as the man during our entire relationship that was ultimately, again, I didn't know at the time, but it was ultimately leading her to disconnect from me emotionally, even though she was the one who asked me to marry her. This is how much I decimated attraction through my behavior over the relationship. Anyway, it was the last time I ever did something like that, groveling and acting like so beta, not like a leader, before I went on the journey to learn what made me become who I am today, and why I dedicated myself to help men who are in the same state and situation where they have such good intentions, but they don't understand women. This is the part that's harder to see for a lot of men, because it's not just about what she feels when the relationship is going down this path where connection is getting damaged. It's also about what starts happening to you and me during my experiences as a man. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with men in my free strategy calls during the application process for my coaching program who tell me everything that's been going on in their marriage or relationship, and there's such a common theme that surfaces. What happens is not just these desperation attempts to increase effort in their relationship so they can get her emotions engaged again, but it's also so common for men to start abandoning themselves. They stop saying what they really thought to her because they don't want to create conflict or upset her, and they soften their standards and basically lifted any boundaries that they did have because they don't want any tension. And I understand the logic because I lived it. It is easier to walk on eggshells and just play it safe or be careful so as not to upset her. But careful energy is different from stable energy. And it is stable energy that starts to do the right things to her nervous system that makes her feel some emotional safety. When your identity becomes reactive instead of rooted in grounded, calm energy, this is where the erosion begins. And when you realize it's not going well and that panic default of trying harder sets in, that's what accelerates her journey out of the marriage. So if trying harder accelerates distance, what actually slows it down and brings her back towards you again? This is where a lot of advice goes wrong when you're asking friends and family, because people will tell you to withdraw or mirror her coldness or go and try and create some sort of jealousy to kind of spark interest back in her. That's not really going to help either of you two, to be honest. What you have to do is not pull away to punish her, but you have to stabilize yourself so the emotional noise decreases. See, like we were talking about, our go-to move when something like this happens and panic wanting to save the relationship is increasing our emotional volume with all of those actions like pouring our heart out, trying to convince her, and all the like. The counterintuitive key is that you have to lower the emotional volume by not trying to get her into these heavy conversations that solve the marriage so that you can explain why you should stay together and explain why you both need to try and work on it. You have to turn down the volume by maintaining your life structure. And I get that it can be difficult because everything in your body tells you to take these actions to try and save the marriage. When you're laying awake at 2 a.m. and your mind is racing with uncertainty, I get it. I've been there many, many times. But you have to get back to your routines as a man and find the ability to be grounded. Take a step back and understand there is nothing you can say logically to her that's going to change the way she feels. You have to start leading decisions calmly instead of trying to negotiate everything. You need to create space in that sense that you are positive and going about your purpose as a man, and you have to allow her to process her feelings without putting urgency on her shoulders to make a decision and commit to fixing everything. The more you're able to do this and learn the skills required to be a solid leader in the relationship and focus on what really matters when it comes to creating polarity, the more she will be able to start to process everything and her nervous system will relax. I get it. Believe me, I do. Me saying, hey, just try to be positive in your days does not sound helpful when you're anxious about the future, but I promise if you start to implement these changes daily and by showing up in a calm, positive manner as a man, which is completely counterintuitive to the situation you're in, this is what allows her to feel less emotional demand attached to every interaction where she feels like you are living in scarcity and you're demanding an immediate resolution to the issue. There's no longer an undercurrent of, are we okay? Are we okay? Are we okay? This is so huge in allowing connection room to breathe. And if you're able to continue to grow as a leader in the relationship, that is what allows this breathing room for her to start working in your favor in terms of reconnection and reconciliation. When you remove the emotional chase, you allow her to feel her own movement again. So if she's checking out right now and you're panicking, trying to think of all the things you can do to get her back in your corner, and the things you've already tried are not working, this is because you are genuinely trying from fear. You have to get aligned and become steady rebuild that purpose and direction as the man and leader of the relationship. And you can do all that without trying to get her participation in. You don't need her to show up to counseling or therapy that she doesn't even want to go to. You just have to start implementing the right framework and get you on track to leading yourself again to then lead her confidently through the relationship. If this resonates with you, if you recognize this as a pattern you see in yourself, then you need to understand emotional leadership at a deeper level. Saving your marriage is not about trying harder. It's not about just pouring your heart out and telling her how much you love her. It is not about buying her nice gifts to bribe her love back, no matter what anyone tells you. So if you're serious about rebuilding this, I invite you to go watch my free Relationship Rebuild Masterclass. In it, I'm going to walk you through the step-by-step process that changed my life, and that will give you the tools to be the leader your relationship needs. That is the only true way to rebuild connection and attraction from her again, but more importantly, give you the confidence and leadership skills so you can have the happy relationship you've been wanting. Click the link in the description or pinned comment below to watch that free masterclass today. If you appreciate me making content like this, go ahead and let me know by giving the like button a tap and subscribe to the channel as well. I'll see you in the next episode.